The short sales are worse. I got Wells Fargo, which stinks.
Okay. Okay, folks, we are live.
It's a good thing.
Yes, it is a good thing.
Alive.
Absolutely. I want to start off with a little joke today. How's that sound? Right? Okay. This is about this gentleman. He's fearless now. He's 105 years old, and he goes fishing down by the riverbank. And while he's fishing by the riverbank, he hears this voice, and it sounds like it's coming up from the ground, and it says, "Pick me up." He's looking around. He doesn't see anything, and he thinks he's hearing things. So he keeps fishing, and he hears the voice again. "Pick me up." He looks down. He sees this little frog. So he said, "Are you talking to me?" And the frog says, "Yeah, pick me up." So he picks him up, picks up the frog, and the frog says, "If you kiss me, I'll turn into a beautiful woman." And he said, "Oh." He takes the frog and puts it in his shirt pocket, and he starts to go home. And he said, and all of a sudden, the frog starts talking, saying, "Hey, I said kiss me, and I'll turn into a beautiful woman." And he said, the older man looks down at the frog, and he says, "Listen, at my age, I'd rather have a talking frog." Right? So anyway, today, preparing to present the offer. Number 5, an offer is better than no offer because A, most closings start with an offer. B, you've got nothing better to do. Or C, John doesn't say that.
Hey.
The answer is A. Most closings start with an offer.
What closings don't start with an offer?
When a buyer wants to make a low offer, A, find out why, B, refuse to submit it, or C, do what they tell you to do. Gosh darn it. A is correct. The best place to present an offer is at the seller's house, at the buyer's house, or in your office.
Anyway.
At the seller's house.
He likes the office.
How many say B?
At the buyer's house.
Nope, it's not true.
In your office.
How many say A?
I would say A.
At the seller's house. How many agree that A is the most popular place that it gets done, right?
A is the most
A?
popular, probably.
Absolutely. But the right answer is C,
C,
in your office. How many agents actually really present their offers for their sellers in their own office?
Yeah. No,
They don't,
they
right?
don't.
Because it's neutral.
Again, this is what separates you, the pro, from the average agent, okay? And I'm going to talk about this. I'm going to talk about why it's important to present it in your office.
Sometimes
In your office or in their office, the agent's office?
So I'm thinking we're the
In
buyer.
your office, the agent's office.
Oh, in the agent's office.
Yeah, the
So
listing
if you're the
agent's
buyer,
office.
you're going to go to the listing
Buyer's
agent.
Oh, wow.
No, if you're the seller,
I was thinking for the buyer.
right, if you're the seller,
Yeah.
and I have an offer on your property, I'm
Right.
going to call you up and say, "Esther, grab your husband and come on in. I have some things I need to go over with you. When can you be here?" And I'd ask you to come into my office, and I'd present the offer to the both of you.
It's one of us to buy it.
Yes.
Well, you know, one of the things with technology, it really goes and helps us with a lot of things. Right here, it's where it hurts us.
Yeah.
Because, you know, now that they can see the offer, now that you can email them an offer, fax them the offer, whatever, they don't have to come in to see the offer and look at it and talk about it.
Right.
And that's one of the hard things to get people to do, to say, I'm gonna take the time, I'm gonna spend the gas, I'm gonna come into the office.
Yeah.
That's true.
Well, you need to convince them that this is the this is the largest investment that they're selling right now in their life. And it's important, my experience is that it's important that we meet face to face so I can go over the details with you. While you're here, you know, we can talk about some other things. We can go over some information in the computer. I'm going to get into that a lot more as we go through this session in terms of what you're actually going to do. But you'll see the incredible value of bringing them into the office. Now, you don't have to bring them into the office. And there are some situations where you're not going to be able to. It will be physically impossible, right? So we'll talk about how to deal with that as well. Would you like to learn that?
Yes.
All right.
Sometimes you're with a buyer and you've showed them houses before, and on a certain day you have 3 to show. So then they say, okay, this is the one I really want. So we always have offers into our car. So now we're on the car, and he's going to work, and he says, okay, put this offer, I'm gonna sign this, blah, blah, you fill in the rest there, you know. So we put an offer like that on the car.
Yeah, that's if you're writing an offer.
Yeah.
Yes.
Isn't this right?
No, this isn't presenting an offer. It's your listing. Follow me on this. It's your listing,
Oh,
and it's your seller, and somebody brings an offer to you, or you have your own buyer that has an offer.
Yeah, see,
Yes.
this isn't clear here.
It's not clear.
The best place to present an offer, you're not sure if you're, if
Well,
I have the buyer and I'm presenting it to you, so then I go to your office, or the offer is being presented to me
When
and
I-
my seller.
In my mind, when I think present an offer, you don't present an offer to a buyer. You write an offer with a buyer.
Right, but
So you present it to the seller, and who's going to present it to the seller?
the seller's agent.
Right,
buyer.
the
the
listing agent.
buyer's
Yeah,
agent.
the buyer.
The buyer's
No,
agent.
they don't though.
Hold on, Ken. This is such a simple thing.
The buyer's agent doesn't.
At least I thought it was anyway when I started this. If you have a listing, right, and you get an offer on your listing, who's going to present that offer to the seller?
You are.
You are.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Well, I think Jody teaches if you're the buyer, you present it for the buyer to the seller.
If you're the buyer's
You can't-
agent.
Yeah.
If
Try
you're
to
the
do
buyer's
it in front
agent,
of them.
if you can.
Yeah, if you can.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
But
If-
wait,
We're
but in
taking
our
the
day-
perspective of the seller's agent.
Yeah.
in this.
Correct.
But in our area, does anyone ever present it to the seller?
I
Listen,
did once, and it was, I was really surprised that she accepted me to come into the seller's home and present the offer.
Wow.
Esther brings up a good point. Esther, it's like that across the whole country. Most buyer's agents do not present the offer to the seller. They let the
Right.
listing agent do it.
Right.
And you know what? Here's the bottom line. If you want to get more offers accepted, do it like Jody O'Brien was saying, and you, as a buyer's agent, ask to present the offer directly to the seller. And more of your offers will be accepted rather than countered or rejected, because I'm going to teach you some stuff today and next week that if you use these techniques and you share these with the co-broke and the seller, that you stand a much greater chance of getting your offer accepted versus being rejected. Again, gang, keep in mind, this is a different market than it was 2 or 3 years ago. Would you agree? And in order to be more successful in this market, you have to change the things you do and the way you do it. And you can no longer do the things that everyone else is doing in your marketplace. You can no longer do what everyone else is doing in your office, and you can no longer do what worked for you yesterday. Because if you're going to do that, your income will go down from where it was before. In order to increase your income, in order to make more sales, you're going to be different in this market. Would you agree that it's the different agent that's making a lot more money in this market than they were in the seller's market? Yes or no?
Absolutely,
Yes.
absolutely.
Well, how do they become so different? Is it because they drive a better car? Is it because they have a nicer suit on? No, they're doing different things. They're performing different activities that are causing them to have different results than everyone else.
So just to recap, the mechanics of what you're saying is that you get an offer from a buyer. I'm the seller's agent. I call up the seller saying, hey, come on, meet me in the office.
Exactly.
I'm going to present it to you.
Yes.
Okay?
Oh,
Yep.
I got
to
it.
the seller? No.
Yes.
Oh, you're gonna make the seller do
Well,
it.
That's what he's saying.
Yeah.
All right.
I
If you're
think
the,
that's what
if
he's
you're the
trying to say.
listing agent,
Oh, yeah, but if we're
Yeah.
not the listing agent, or
If you're
we're the
not the-
buyer.
right? If you're the buyer's agent, I would still recommend you try to get to present it to the seller.
That's, I haven't seen that work.
Well,
Have you? I mean.
yes,
this is
and
what
I've
you
done
do.
it, and it works very, very well. But very few people do it or attempt to do it. Here's why it doesn't work. Number one, we don't try, first of all. Second thing, we do try, but we try the wrong way. We have a bad tonality in our voice. We become very, I'm going to talk about this a lot too, gang. I'm kind of jumping ahead of myself, but you kind of have to take on this attitude, even though you're a buyer's agent, as this is us. This is we, this is the team, this is together between myself, you the listing agent, and you the seller. Let's get this buyer in this house. Let's see what we can do to put this together. Even though you're the buyer's agent, if you take on this mentality, you'll close more deals and you'll make more buyers happy because you're getting them the home that they want, in the time frame that they want, at the price that they want, but you need to be able to get in front of these people first. Sometimes, maybe, 10% of the listing agents would say, no way. You cannot. Well, legally, you have the right to do that.
Yeah.
And so you can remind them, but do it in a nice way. You know what I mean? And say, listen, I don't mean any harm. I don't want I'm not gonna ask your seller, I know what you're probably thinking of, I might ask your seller some personal questions that you don't want them to divulge to me. I promise you, I won't cross the line. I'll be very nice about it. I just want, my buyer would like me to present the offer in the best light possible, and they're hoping that they asked me to do that for them, and I promised them I would. So with your permission, I'd like to know when you're going to present the offer. I'd like to go with you, just kind of state my case, explain a little bit of the details about my buyer, and then I'm gonna leave real quick, and you can stay and talk to them and advise them as much as you need to. Is that okay? And now the listing agent says, oh, okay, because the reason why the listing agent didn't want you there is they were afraid that you were going to beat up their seller and try to twist their arm to get it. You know, you just have to explain to them, you know, I'm here to, we're all working together here, you know? Let me help you and I make a commission, okay? and let me in the door, and I promise, you know, that I just want to represent my buyer in the best light, and then I'll leave, and you guys can talk about anything you want after I'm gone. How's that?
What about if the seller says, okay, what's the big deal that you want to come to my person?
Sure.
Just fulfilling the wish of the
leave it,
buyer.
just give me this and I'll go, because the only time I can go, they're gonna make it difficult, because if they don't want us, the only time I can go is at 9 o'clock tonight, and you at that time, I mean, now you have to get all time.
Yeah, but that's true with any appointment, right?
No.
Yeah, that's true with any appointment. So,
They'll say, I'll present it. I mean, who gave you the idea of this? We've never done that. Nobody has done that in our office, and blah, blah.
Yeah.
It's
They
my
say
legal
no.
right.
yeah.
Can we say
But you
that?
just-
It
but
is
you just
legal,
just
right?
say,
Yeah.
Well, you can.
Will you allow me to
I mean,
That's what we're
present
discussing right
this
now.
offer to your seller?
yeah, I just gave you that dialogue. I would use it again and again and again until it finally sinks in. So
Yeah.
that's what I would do. We need to.
What about saying to that listing agent, if you're a buyer's agent, if your seller has any questions, I can probably help. I can probably answer those questions.
I can help you sell this house.
Yeah, I can help you sell this house.
That's
Right.
it. That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
I mean, don't you want to sell your listing? Oh, yeah, I guess so. I mean, do you want to be a big tough guy and be a bully, or do you want to sell your listing? I mean, you wouldn't say that to them, but I mean, think about it. You know, I mean, what's more important, you being right about something or selling your listing? I mean, that's kind of like, you know, the mindset that you have to develop. You wouldn't say those things exactly to them, but I mean, this is what you need to be thinking. Like, what they would be, if you had it in your head, they would be crazy not to let me in there to show the listing. You would get in every time. But because you already have in your minds of, well, that's not customary. We don't do that. Our office doesn't do that. They're not going to let us do it. I wouldn't want the buyer's agent talking to myself. We never did it that way before. Why should we change now? Well, you should change now because agents are making less money now than they ever had, doing it the old way. And there are some agents that are coming into this business, learning it when I say the old way, I mean they're using techniques that work in a seller's market. And now there are newer agents coming into the business now that are using techniques because they will only learn techniques that work in a buyer's market, and they're selling 3-4 times the amount of homes than a person who's been in the business for 10 years, who should be selling 3 to 4 to more times the number of homes because they have more knowledge and expertise in order to advise their clients and experience. But yet, it's in every market, in every situation, you see new people outperforming experienced people, hands down, left and right, because of human beings, in most cases, lack the natural ability to let go of the past. And when you do, you can move into the future. Okay, gang? Once the buyer signs the offer, you should tell the buyer, congratulations, Bill, you just bought a house. Or you should say, keep your fingers crossed, anything can happen. How many, right?
Yes.
B. Right? Yes, Bill.
I say the same thing, but I phrase it a little differently.
You do?
I said, now if we're driving to Florida, you just crossed the Connecticut line.
Whoa, I like that. You're driving to Florida from
Feel that.
Massachusetts.
Feel.
You just crossed the Canada, so you just started.
You're just starting the journey. We've got a lot
Wow.
of stops along the way, and
Could run out of gas, get a flat tire, might call AAA, could take them 3 hours to get here. Right? Absolutely. That's great. You're going to feel tired along the way, you might want to stop. But you have to keep going, right? That's normal. That's good. What should you take with you on your offer presentations? The contract and deposit, B, a letter from the buyers, or C, everything?
Everything.
Everything is correct.
So when you say, what should you take with you on your offer present, this is when you're going to
Present the
the,
offer.
to the seller's house with the agent.
Yes, whether you are the buyer's agent or the listing agent, and you're presenting the offer to the seller, you take everything with you. Just like when you go on a listing appointment, you take everything with you.
And you encourage a letter from the buyer.
Everything. I encourage everything.
Bring
Okay.
food.
Yes,
And home baked goods,
absolutely. Absolutely.
not a bad way to do it.
There's an agent, they're a husband and wife team, and they work in central Massachusetts. I actually worked in the same office that they did. And they absolutely would bring chocolates with them on every single appointment. Listing appointment, presenting an offer appointment, buyer agent appointment, upon the first meeting, you'd have the agency disclosure form and a box of chocolates from them. And that's what he said. He said, John, we thought about bringing wine, but then not everybody drinks, but everybody loves chocolate, and it's so, and that's just something they did as a matter of practice. It's what they do. Now imagine, you think that those agents stand out differently than other agents, yes or no?
They're much sweeter.
Yeah,
A
absolutely.
lot of
They're much
sweeter. Ooh,
agents,
I
yes.
like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a good idea. You know what's sad too sometimes is that sometimes we hear good ideas and we say, oh, that's a good one. But actually, if you hear something, write it down. Say, here's an idea I'm going to implement. This is what I'm going to do. It makes a big difference, and it can make a big difference in your business. Okay, now let me ask you a question, gang.
What should you bring, really?
I'm so glad you asked that question, because we're going to talk about that.
What did you just ask?
So what should we bring when we're presenting the offer, right? Okay.
The down deposit, picture, the fax it to you.
Everything.
And the offer.
Everything, absolutely, and more.
The
We're going to talk
agency,
about that.
and the agency discount.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Now, how many of you people are commissioned salespeople? Raise your hand, please.
Commissioned.
Commissioned salespeople, right?
Mark, you are.
Wow, all right. This is good. This is exciting. You are really going to love this session today. Do you know why? Because in this session, I'm going to share with you how to get your offers accepted versus rejected or countered. And by the way, when an offer is countered, it is rejected. Now, again, like I normally do, I'm going to share with you things that are going to upset, your apple cart a little bit. It's going to, you're going to be thinking automatically, if you've been in the business for a while, I feel bad for you because you're instinctively going to say, well, we don't do it that way, John. I mean, we've never done it that way before. But I'm here to show you and tell you something completely different that you're not used to doing that will make a huge difference in terms of you making more money per hour in this business. And for you new people, you are so lucky because you didn't learn it. You don't have any of these bad, but different habits. And then really, when I say that, I mean that sincerely. It's just that they're habits that worked before, but they don't work now. Okay? So, let's talk about this. As an agent, by going to training, I can make you strong and competent and confident, and when you practice it enough, you then become a natural, okay? So strong, competent, confident, and then you become a natural. Well, the first step is making you strong, and I can guarantee, in fact, I can promise you that I can make you strong if you just follow these two simple steps. The first step, and what I'm going to share with you today, is you need to understand the 6 principles or keys or techniques that I'm going to share with you today. You need to adopt them and accept them and use them and implement them. The second thing that you need to do is you need to learn a 7-step track about getting the offer accepted instead of counted or rejected, and I'm going to share that with you next week. Okay? Next week we're going to go over the 7-step track. Now, number 1, if you go to the next page, please. Be prepared for the blank. Not the best. Absolutely. Be prepared for the worst, not the best. Let me tell you a story. And this is kind of like the manager / trainer / coach in me. I remember managing an office years ago. This was back in 1998. And there was a woman, her name was Diane, and she was, I was brand new to the office, just managing this office. And she was walking out of the office, and she had a folder in her hand, and it looked like a folder that someone might have when they were writing up an offer, right? So now feel this, it's her listing, okay? It was a $250,000 listing, and I said, hey Diane, let me see what you got there. And Diane showed me her folder, and I opened it up and I looked at it, and inside the folder was one piece of paper, was an offer to purchase. Okay, and I looked at it. Now, the offer came in at $240. How much was the property listed for? $250. How many of you think that that's a deal that you can work out? Raise your hand. In a buyer's market, right? Absolutely. You can work that out, right?
Yeah.
Well, Diane leaves the office, and 45 minutes later, she comes back, and the curiosity, in me, so I said, hey, Diane, let me see what you got. And I opened, she handed me the folder, and I opened it up, and in red pen, literally, honest to goodness, red pen, right across the price, it had the word REJECTED.
Oh, rejected.
Rejected. Took her 45 minutes to get that offer rejected. And right then and there, I knew that agents need to know what to do when they get out into that appointment.
Yeah.
All right, gang? They need to know how to not get that offer rejected. Something else I want to share with you. When you give people the option to do something, sometimes they take that option every time. Like, for instance, if you say to a seller, you can either accept this, you can reject it, or you could give a counteroffer where you go back and forth and meet somewhere in the middle. Guess what they'll do every time?
Okay. I'm gonna go
They'll
to
counter.
Yeah.
But if you use the dialogue that I'm going to share with you today, rather than going back and forth and countering and you potentially losing the buyer, because I know some of you, every week I hear a story about how a seller made a counteroffer and the buyer just said, forget it. Bill just told me last week he had a transaction where he had two offers in on the same property, and one buyer backed out because they didn't want to get in a bidding war. And gang, that's not an isolated event. That happens all the time. All the time. Now,
Obviously, they didn't like the house.
Right.
Could you walk out?
in your handouts, I have this sentence. I said, what reason will they give me for rejecting your offer?
Where's that?
Right underneath number one.
What
Not there.
Right.
Choose
But
your-
here's- Okay, but here's what I want you to think.
Stay on track, John.
Yes, thank you. I'm trying. I'm trying so hard. As you can see, it's not easy. So what I want you to think is that what reason will they give you for rejecting the offer? That was in my notes, not your notes. I had it colored wrong.
What
in my
reason?
notes. Yeah, what reason will they give you for rejecting the offer? Right?
Too low.
All right, and now you have to think to yourself, what can you bring with you to get them to change their feelings about that? All right, hold on. I'm going to write these down. And should you write these down, yes or no?
Yes.
I would.
What reasons can
Now,
you give them?
What reasons are they going to give you for rejecting the offer, right? And what are you going to bring with you to change the way they feel? Now, Mark was bringing up a great point about all the things that you have to bring with you leave. You have to bring the agency disclosure form. You need to bring the check. You need to bring the offer to purchase. Here's the other thing. Too many of you are getting fax copies of checks and all this crap. I mean, you need to stop that. You need to meet with the actual agent face to face and say, where are you right now? See, getting offers accepted with, and like Bill was saying, with technology is ruining it. You have to get face to face with these people.
With who?
The
The
sellers.
other agents.
The other agent.
The other
Work together.
agents.
Face to face with the other agent.
Hold
hard
on.
to do
We're getting
nowadays.
into confusion zone again. Let me specify. Here's what we want to do. we're gonna go here, right?
Oh.
When we what was your question again?
I don't remember. Who am I facing?
She's wondering who's
Okay,
got to
I'm
look
sorry.
at.
Thank you. You guys are throwing me away. But I'm going to get back on track now.
I'm
It's
just
okay.
selling listing buyers. Am I the listing agent or the buying agent?
If you are,
I'm bringing the offer.
Right. Whether, no, here it is, here it is. I'm on track now, you ready? Listen up before I lose my thought again. We have, you're the listing agent.
Yeah.
And Ken calls you up and says, Roberta, I've got an offer on your listing. The average agent says, well, fax it over to me, I'm at my house, or just fax them my email and I'll let them know. Then the average agent calls the seller and says, hey, I got an offer and blah, 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 here's what it is, I got the check and okay? A pro does this. A pro says, Roberta says, Ken, where are you right now? And he says, well, I'm actually in West Springfield. Okay, meet me at the car wash on Route 20. I'll be there, and I can meet there, and you can give me the check, the offer, the lead paint, and we'll exchange all the stuff. Roberta grabs all the stuff in the personal check that they wrote out with little teddy bears on them, and they're all pink and purple, and everything with the check, right? And then Roberta goes and makes an appointment to meet with the sellers in her office and shows them the money, the check. You see, gang, it's a huge difference when you call a seller on the phone, the way they feel, with an over-the-phone offer versus actually seeing it right in front of them. Seeing is what?
Believing.
A picture's worth 1,000 what?
Words.
No, dollars. Right. Okay, gang? Please, if there's one thing I need to impress, here's the thing. Why do some agents do it the old-fashioned way, where they just do it over the phone?
It's easy.
Lazy.
It's easy. Some people are lazy.
Comfortable.
But here's the bottom line. They don't believe yet that more of their offers would get accepted if they just did it in person instead of over the phone all the time. And here's what they're doing over the phone, time and time and time again. I know, I hear it, I see it every day, and every week that goes by, I say, I can't wait till that seminar comes from. They really need this seminar. Wait till they hear this one. They'll change their ways once they see this information, right? And they're on the phone saying, well, I've got an offer for you. Let me tell you all the details. Are you sitting down? Okay, great. Do you have a pencil? Okay, great. Wrong, wrong, wrong. I'm going to show you how to do it a way in which you'll get more of them accepted instead of rejected or countered. It's easier to do it over the phone, right? It's easier to do it over email. It's more difficult to do it face-to-face. But here's another thing. It's more difficult for someone to say no face-to-face also. That's why it's always better to be in face-to-face. Here's a great analogy for you. You meet with the seller face-to-face to do a listing presentation. Would you ever give a listing presentation over the phone to one of the two decision makers, yes or no?
Yeah.
Why not?
You need both.
Why do you need both? Why do you need to be face-to-face on a listing presentation? What's the big deal? Why do you do that?
You need them to sign.
You need them to sign, right?
You need
What
their
else?
They
confidence.
can't hang
They
up
need
on
their
you.
confidence. They need to see the sincerity in your eyes and the sincerity in your voice, right? They need to see that you're a professional. But yet we go there face-to-face on the listing appointment, but we blow it when we get the offer and we don't go face-to-face. How about when you meet a buyer for the first time and you meet them in your office? CITO, what does that stand for?
Come into my office.
Come into my office, right? They come into your office and they're there. Why do you want to meet with them face-to-face to go over the pros and cons of buyer agency and why they should hire you exclusively and what you're going to do to help them buy the best home at the best price in the shortest amount of time? Why do you want to meet with them face-to-face?
It's professional, for one thing.
It's professional, absolutely.
You want to have their confidence.
Establishes their confidence. They need to sign something, right, Carol? Like
Right,
Carol
they
said,
need
I
to
love what you
sign.
said. That was great.
You're putting
Uh,
a team together.
You're putting a team together, absolutely. But then we blow it when it comes to presenting the offer. Oh, gang, you know what? Most races are won and lost when? In the last
Yes,
quarter mile. The last quarter of the race, they're won or lost. And by the way, this is the last quarter, gang. I've shown you all the techniques and all the scenarios and all the special things that you need to do to get to this point, and then agents blow it by not showing up face-to-face when they present the offer. One of the best ways to get there in front of the seller is that you tell them this. How about during your Safe Island dialogue, you say, when I get an offer, I'm going to ask you to come in. Before you even list the property, you start telling them, when I get an offer, I'm going to ask you to come into my office so that we can go over the details.
What if they're out of town?
I'm going to share with you what to do with that as well.
Or even
You give them a
if it's in
ticket.
Holyoke.
I'll tell you what, I'll share that with you now. Are you ready? Okay. If they're out of town, here's what you do. If they're out of town, you need to email or fax them all of the paperwork. Email or fax them, even a copy of the check. all the paperwork, everything, email and fax them everything, and then get them on the phone. How many people are on the phone?
All the people involved.
Everybody. Or you don't fax it or mail it until everyone can be together on the phone together. Because here's the problem. Too many people will tell the husband, and then the husband has to try to sell it to the wife. Or they'll tell the wife, and the wife has to try to sell it to the husband. Or you talk to the sister, and she needs to sell it to the brother. And gang, that isn't working. Because how you present it is going to be very different from them. You know how you would present an offer, right, gang?
Yep.
Here's how they would present it. Here's how they would present it, Roberta. They would go like this. Yeah, they only offered $179.9. You probably don't want to accept it, do you? That's them working for you, okay? That's what happens when you tell the wife and you don't have the husband on the phone, gang. That's how he gets the message. And then he calls the wife and back, tell him to forget about it. Tell him to go pound sand. And she calls you up and she says, I talked to Ralphie and he said that we probably shouldn't accept this offer right now. And you're like, oh, geez. Then you go back to the co-broke, and the co-broke goes back to the buyer, blah, blah, blah. And what do? It takes 2 weeks to get it accepted. In the meantime, they've lost their enthusiasm about buying the property. Then they're giving you more trouble about the home inspection because they're really not sure they want to buy the property. At this point, the buyer's hoping that it doesn't appraise. You see where I'm going with this, gang?
Yeah.
Accepted versus rejected is a huge difference. And the way you present things makes a huge difference, right? Why is it that when you meet with a client, you get dressed up?
You want it.
You want to make a good presentation, but why do agents blow it when it comes to getting the offer? They're not making the right presentation.
Well,
Why
sometimes it's
do you
needed,
clean your
Nick.
car before you take buyers out?
Impression.
Right. But yet we blow it when we have the offer and we're not giving the right impression when we present the offer. Gang, this is the difference between, you've worked so hard to get to this point. Listen, gang, I know how hard you've worked to get to the point to writing up an offer, and then we blow it when it comes to presenting it because we're not doing it properly. Yes, Roberta and then Bill.
Well, for instance, you get an offer at 10 o'clock at night and, you know, it's a hot potato. I mean, you want to tell, I mean, do you just
Yes.
wait till the next day and call them? Because I'm not going to the office in my PJs.
Here's what I would say to a seller. Now, here's what, and listen, I've done this.
If it helps you sell
And
it,
definitely, I was going to say, should definitely sell it. Depends upon the PJ.
You're right. There you go.
Dude,
There
you're
you
good.
go. You have to have a special care for the offer.
That's right.
Listen,
With
guys,
your name
Judy's really good at marketing. That's
Bring
good.
it on.
She knows all about marketing. That's great. And presentation.
Right. Presentations, everything.
Too funny. Very rarely do I blush up here, but that's a good one. So now, now this is what would typically happen. This is what really happens. And it happened to me one night. I got the call at 10 o'clock, presented the offer. We negotiated the offer. And then I ended up going to the seller's house. I made the mistake. I didn't have this information. I'll be honest with you guys. I went to their house instead of having them go to my office.
At 10 o'clock at night?
Yes,
Yeah.
10 o'clock at night. And then, now feel this, I called the buyer's agent. He was a buyer's agent. And I said, okay, I've got the offer signed. It's all set. I'll fax to you in the morning. He said, no, where are you? I said, I'm in Auburn. He said, are you near their house? I said, yes. He said, listen, why don't I meet you at Dunkin' Donuts near Route 12 and 20? I want to pick up the offer and get it signed. And here's what he said to me. I've learned such a valuable lesson. He said, I want to get the changes initialed by the buyers tonight so that when they wake up in the morning, they don't have a change of heart. And I'm here to tell you, and listen, you more experienced people know this. Isn't it true that you feel differently after you have time to sleep on it, right? And here's what I would say to a buyer. Mr. Buyer, I know it's late at night, but here's the bottom line. If we don't get this initial tonight and the seller sleeps on it and they change their mind tomorrow and they call me in the morning and say, by the way, we changed our mind, did they initial it yet? And by the way, not only does it have to be initialed, but it has to be delivered, so we can't even lie about it and say, oh yeah, they initialed it when in fact they didn't. It has to be delivered back to them in order to know that it was accepted. And then you might lose the house of your dreams because the seller slept on it and changed their mind. Or the price might go up $5,000 or $10,000 if we don't do this. How many buyers would open their door at 10:30 at night and say, yeah, come on in, let's get this signed?
Yeah.
They all do. Never had anybody complain about it at all, you know?
So
The
it's
only
just the
person that-
agent.
The only person that might complain about it is the
Complain.
agent and or the agent's spouse,
Right.
right? Where the heck you going at 10:30 at night? Well, my spouse knew. I mean, hey, this is just part of the job, because if I didn't, then I could lose the sale, lose the sale.
With it.
You sleep with your
But
hair
in real estate, but then again, I could sleep till 10 o'clock the next morning too, and nobody would mind or care either. I mean, so it's like I just pick your own hours. Yes, Bill.
Okay, if we eventually get into it, you are gonna tell us how to present this in person and everything to bring.
Yes.
But I'm gonna throw one other question. Did you present, because we all get ridiculous offers.
Yes.
Did you present everything in person, or were there offers that you just said, you know what, this isn't gonna float anyways, you knew it wasn't gonna float, and didn't waste the time?
I would definitely go regardless, because here's the bottom line, and here's what I would say to the sellers. I'll answer your question by using the dialogue that I would use with my sellers. I would go to the meeting, I'd meet them at my office, okay, gang? And let's say it was a $200,000 property, and they were offering 100. Okay, ridiculous. Oh, no, it's ridiculous, right? And say, listen, the law requires me to present any and all offers. Come on in, and I want to present the offer to you. And I'd present it to them, and it would be really low, and they would say, "Oh, that's ridiculous." I'd say, "Okay, well, we have some choices. We can either accept or reject the offer. What do you want to do right now?" Now, when I was going to meet the sellers at my office, I would make sure I would call the buyer agent, and I would say, "Listen, can you be with your buyers at this time, or can you have them on the phone with you, three-way conversation?" And sometimes what I do is I put the buyer agent on speakerphone and say, "Okay, I have the sellers here." And what I would do is I would literally negotiate the offer right then and there, back and forth, live,
With the agent on the phone.
with the co-broke agent on the phone.
with everybody there.
Yeah.
And he would have either be on his cell phone with the buyer and on a regular phone with me, right? Sometimes what I would do, Bill, if I would ask the agent to come with me.
Yeah.
I would say, "Listen, you're giving me a $100,000 offer on a $200,000 property. We're going to meet the sellers personally, and you're going to tell them why you think that they should take a $100,000 offer." And I did that one time, and the agent said, "Well, let me see what I can do."
Right.
And they went back. I'm like, "Hey, don't throw me under the bus. You're coming with me. Hey, you want to try to rob this bank? I'm not doing it alone. You come with me, right? I mean, come on, gang." And sometimes that'll work. Another.
So what you have, I like
Yes.
that too.
Yeah.
The three-way conversation if you have to, but now you have to teach us how to put it on a three-way conversation.
All you have to do is put it on
That's another
speakerphone.
That's
Put it
another
on-
class, right?
Well, put it on speaker. Here's what I would do. Now, feel this. I have myself and my seller in the conference room, and I have the buyer agent on speakerphone. And I would say, "Okay, buyer agent, the sellers are here. I'm here. And why don't you tell us a little bit more about the buyer and why they're coming up with this price and why do they think it's worth this?" Because what that does, it's not me trying to beat the sellers up on their price. They're my sellers. I'm on their side. But now they get to hear it from a third-party person, And sometimes, that agent will bring up some really good things that you might have been afraid to bring up. Well, they really couldn't get over the smell of the cat, and they're not sure if they're going to be able to get rid of that out of the carpets, and the wife looks at the husband and says, "I told you that," And so what happens is they start being more realistic rather than spontaneously counter-offering or rejecting. See, by putting people together like that, it eliminates them spontaneously rejecting an offer, And I would say to them, "Listen, we know that's way off the mark, and these people might be fishing. Maybe they can't afford it. Maybe we're wasting our time. But on the other hand, what if we're not? What if they're just fishing and they're just trying to find out how much we really will sell it for?" Every sale starts with a what? I would say that to the seller. Every sale starts with an offer. The beautiful part about this is that if you're not comfortable and you don't like it, you don't have to accept it. But I would bring everything with me before I present the offer to the sellers. Yes?
I just wanted to say what works for me and about bringing everything. Well, first of all, when they say that's insulting, I say don't be insulted by people who put offers on paper and write a check. Be insulted by all the people who saw your property and didn't make an offer.
Wow.
And the other thing I do is I bring with me, when I do bring it to them, the seller, if I really wanna make a point,
Yes?
I bring the wad of show slips and I plaster them all over the table, one at a time.
The
Yes.
what?
Here are the show slips.
How many times you show the
Here
property?
are the showings on this, these are the people who didn't want your house.
Yes.
And here's the one that does.
Yes.
So,
And this is their offer.
yeah,
This is what we have to work with right now.
Yeah.
All these people said no. And what about the thousands and thousands of buyers that saw it in the multiple listing service that didn't
oh, I
see
did
it?
that too, I showed them, it had 1,048 hits on one house, and I it printed what I could see. I said, this is how many people got emailed your listing.
Wow. They saw it. and-
1,048, and they're like, oh.
Yeah.
This
And
is
sometimes
very
it's
good.
really way overpriced, because I remember I came in lowballing one, and you know, and I thought, what am I gonna do? But we presented it, and amazingly, I mean, they took it.
Yeah.
So you just don't know. You really
Just
don't
don't
know.
know.
And sometimes it opens up their eyes to the fact that they really have overpriced it.
Absolutely.
You know?
So I thank Roberta for getting us back on track, because that was the last question I left off with, and which was, what do you bring with you? Now, based on what Roberta just said, she listed a couple of great things. Now, when you go to present an offer to the seller in your office, right, what are you going to bring with you when you present the offer? What? What did Roberta say? The show slips,
And
right?
hits on the MLS.
Yeah.
I never did that. I hope to see that.
I never did it till like last week.
How do you get
And
it?
feedback.
When
And
you
then,
go on your
It says
listing,
client
press your
messages, right?
listing,
Yeah.
Yeah, it says
and
it
it
right there.
shows you all that things.
it's on MLS. What else can you bring?
Hits on MLS. Comparables, you know, the
Yeah.
market analysis, the
Uh,
recent market analysis.
The key word is recent.
Recent.
Right?
Right.
So we would say an
Recent
updated
sold.
CMA.
Yeah,
Right.
updated CMA.
What else?
Is that, you know, the check and all the usual stuff.
The bank
Number-
letter, the bank
the
letter,
number
the
of-
check.
The offer, the
agency
check,
disclosure,
The letter.
the offer.
Yeah, a little bit.
all the normal things.
Right? Bring the money. I want to see the check. Right?
Right.
Yeah, and all the forms. But you know,
Disclosure
but
form.
listen, that stuff is a given. I'm talking about bringing things that will change the way they feel about countering or rejecting the offer. What are some other things you can bring?
Competing properties, competing active properties.
Well,
but
that's
that's-
it, that's
that would
the
be in the
CMA.
CMA.
Well,
I would put those in the CMA.
yeah,
Yeah.
but I'm thinking of, in addition to the CMA,
Okay.
everything that's out there. I mean, we've got a lot of inventory on the
Competition,
market
you
right
mean?
there.
Ah, okay.
The
So
inventory, this
here's-
is what else they can look at that's like yours.
I wrote this down, and it's what you're saying, and here it is: a trend graphics report.
Okay.
Out of trend graphics, you're going to show them how much inventory is on the market. You're going to show them that we have 13.5 months of inventory in the market right now, where 6 months ago we had 6 months of inventory on the market. So a trend graphics
Wow,
report,
we
great
see
one,
this.
Diane. That's excellent.
Of course, I don't mind anymore.
You said it better though.
You know. But this is a better visual tool, would you agree?
Yeah.
Yes.
Than just telling them what's on the market and so on and so forth. I put down a days on market report, you know, to show them, which also can show up in trend graphics. We'll give you that information. Here's another thing that, remember, in one of the classes I showed you a huge list, and we explained to the sellers that you don't want to be on this list. What list was that?
Expired.
The
Expired.
expired list. Remember I told you if you keep that expired list in your folder and you tape the pages together end to end and you roll them out on the table or on the floor like this, that there are many times that you're going to be able to use that list. It's a great tool. So show them the expired list. By the way, these are all the properties that expired over the last 6 months since we've had your home on the market. Right? Yes.
I like also in trend graphics, it's what I do lately, is I love the square footage amount per square foot. I say,
Okay.
well, here's what an appraiser's gonna be looking at, and here's what the, average square feet is for your house, and I just take out my calculator and figure it out, and it's usually a lot less than what they want.
Sure.
I said, this is what will happen, you may get that, but an appraiser's gonna look at this.
Right.
Hard.
Yep. Absolutely.
And they don't understand that most
Yeah.
sellers don't understand. I had one say, well, why does everyone talk about the square footage? We did this, this, and this, and this, and our house is so much better now. And I said, yes, but you didn't, it's an 1,800 square foot house.
Right. Right.
This is what they sell for.
Yeah, exactly. Good point. Yes, Bill?
You know, as I'm looking at the list you're putting together, a lot of those items are the same items you include in your listing presentation to get the people to price the house correctly. Now
Exactly.
you're getting them, trying to move them to accepting a reasonable offer.
Yes.
Using the same materials. One of the things that I've included with that in the presentation I'm putting together, and I mentioned this to you before, is a property that's been on the market for a while and the continual price drop and reduction.
That's a
And
good
saying,
idea.
had they taken it
Yes.
here, they would have acted, even though
Right.
they were 20,000 below
Yep.
where they wanted to be, they would have made 60,000 more.
So examples of reduced properties. Excellent. Excellent. That's a great one. Yes.
I don't know how to put this in writing, but I also ask people, sellers, here's what you have. Do you want to gamble with $240,000? Are you gambling people? Do you like to
Right.
gamble? Because if you gamble with 240, that you're going to get 250 eventually, maybe 3 months, 6 months, a year from now. Does that appeal to you?
All right.
So
Let's.
you say deal or no deal?
Deal or not? How it
Right.
comes out?
Put on your Howard mask.
So bring with you the Roberta Orenstein Gamble Dialogue. Okay, bring that with you, right? I love that. That's great, Roberta. Excellent. You know, in the showing slips, it shows the feedback. You know, I didn't use slips. I just had a log of all the dates and when the property was shown and all that good stuff. And it even helps you a lot if some time has gone by and there are no showings.
Right.
You know, or if you have a lot of showings and no offers, right? Either way, it works. Here's your house has been on the market 4 months. Here are a list of showings, and it's a blank page. All right, that could be just as powerful as having 20 show slips that say that, you know, all the different feedback is why they're not buying it. Here's another thing that I thought of that some people do, and it takes. Again, guess what? It takes time to put all this stuff together. Would you agree?
Yes.
But if you knew you were going to make the sale, would you do it? Right? Here's the problem. Too many of you have presented an offer over a phone, it got accepted, and the deal closed. That's a problem. Because now you think that can happen all the time, and it can't. If you want to increase your odds, if you want to get 9 out of 10 accepted rather than rejected, you need to follow this process. Okay, gang? How about this? Here's the other thought I had was about a letter from the buyer. You know, a letter from the buyers themselves.
Some of those
You know-
letters need to be looked at first. I've had some love letters lately that are ridiculous.
Yeah.
And they have the reasons why their offer is $80,000 less than the asking price. And I say, no, this doesn't help you. You know, we love your house, but, and then there's a list
Yeah.
of why they're not
Well,
offering.
You're correct. I mean, that's an example of a bad buyer letter. What the buyer should be saying is that that's clearly a letter trying to get them all, the seller, to feel all mushy about the buyer,
Right.
and then take less than what their property is worth, markedly less than what their property is worth. That's not going to work. But if you're working with a buyer and you have a decent offer put in together, and you just say, and the buyer puts a sincere letter together that says, by the way, we love the size of your family when we often entertain on the holidays, or it's been our dream to be able to be the ones in the family, to be able to have everyone come over to our house because, you know, we love to cook and we love to entertain. And when we took one look at your dining room, we thought this is the house for us. And so we please, if you would consider our offer. I know it's not as high as what you expected to get for your property, but based on what we've seen in the marketplace, we feel as though that we're putting in a fair offer, and your house is our first choice. You know, instead of knocking them down and saying, but you don't have public sewerage, and you don't have this and this, and you start knocking down the property and knocking down the house, they don't respond well to that.
Yeah, they're gonna
More
hate
sellers
that.
will be more, and here's the other thing, you need to be sincere. You know, pick out something very specific about the property and the buyers that cause that link to occur. And too many buyers agents are afraid to expose how much the buyer loves the house. You know, you're supposed to act like you don't like it. How many buyers agents say this to their buyers? Listen, if you walk in the house and you see it, and the seller's there or the agent's there, pretend you don't like it, even if you like it. Right?
You know, I'm having problems with one now that we had. everything was fine until we had the inspection, okay?
Yes?
So now they're asking, I'm on the buyer side, so now they're asking naturally for the seller to put some money in escrow, whatever, so that they can take care of X, Y, and Z. The people don't really want to come through with that. But the boiler isn't working. I mean, you gotta do certain things. How would you get around that? And and the interesting thing is this, it turns out that I know the people who own the house.
All right, so what's the problem?
So what
The
I'm
problem
trying to
is-
say is maybe I should buy into what you're saying and ask the seller's agent if I can contact the people and speak to them.
You have to be with the agent.
You can't, if it,
Well, they live in Florida.
I mean, you could say, can we get on a three-way
Yeah.
phone call conversation? You and I, why don't I come to your office, listing agent, and you get your seller on the phone, and the three of us can all talk, because let's try to put this together.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Listening to what you're saying, maybe that
Yeah.
would work, and they would hear more, and they'd say, "Okay, we'll come through with
Yeah.
X amount of money."
Because here's the bottom line. The agent that is the listing agent may not be as skilled as you are, because you present it and you word it beautifully and perfectly so that it's logical and understand it and it makes sense. And if the listing agent doesn't believe in what you're saying, and they believe that, hey, this property's listed at $425, I know I can get this price. In fact, I promised them I would get them this price, and your offer's at $400, and you want me to put the heating system in? Here's what happens. How many of you have ever had a deal blown because of an attorney who was very absent about the deal? Where they were negotiating on behalf of the seller or the buyer, and the deal fell apart because the attorney might have, had a personal agenda there that he didn't really care if the house sold or not. He might have been getting paid regardless. I mean, it doesn't happen. It happens very rarely, but it has happened on occasion where they let their pride and or their ego get in the way. And guess what? Agents do the same thing. They let their pride or their ego get in the way from making the sale.
But even
And
with
they don't
these
even know what
people-
they're doing. They think that they're doing a good job for their seller, when in reality they're preventing the sale from the property.
But see, with these people are saying, "Well, when we lived there, everything worked." Well, it doesn't work now. You know what I mean?
The contract says all mechanical
Yeah,
I know.
will be working.
Right.
Yeah.
I have something,
Right,
I
so
just want
does-
to add it on to the buyer letter. If you
Or they
don't
can
have a
give
buyer
someone
letter,
else.
I think this is very, very important, because all sellers want to know who's making the offer, who's in that family.
Yeah.
Tell me a bio about those people. They want to know.
Right.
And the more they know about the potential buyer, if there are two offers, they'll bond more with the person,
Yeah, right.
with the
You're
offer,
right.
where they know more about the buyers.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
That's how I got that house to go way down, the one I told you about, because I did a whole thing about how the lady was now single and she had her children and she had to find a place and she just loved this, and it was near her synagogue where she had to walk and da.
So you need a snapshot
did
of the family with the dog.
And I've seen that
Right.
too. I've seen that too. Pictures of the
Yeah,
family.
that's not a bad idea. This is the
Yeah.
family who wants the house.
That's why you have a digital camera, right? You
Yep.
take a picture, print it out right here at the office, right?
Or your cell phone.
Yeah, or your cell phone.
Right. Here they are.
Your cell
Here they
phone.
are. They
Yeah.
will bring your house
They
love.
will
What else can you bring with you?
Oh, the
Chocolates.
The chocolates. Okay.
And this lady in the corner here had an idea of putting your name on the
Oh, you
M&Ms.
just gave away my great. No, it's
Oh,
true.
my God.
You know,
I'm
why
sorry.
not get bars or M&Ms with your name on it? Of course, the other agent's not going to appreciate that, but
Oh, to
You know.
give it to them? And
with their names at
Oh, I
open
see.
houses. How about M&Ms in little baggets, because you don't want everybody's hands in it. But something with your name on the M&Ms.
That's a good
Yeah.
idea.
I know. I just thought of
Get a
that.
kid to put it together.
Huh?
Now,
Get a kid to put it together today.
Yeah, that's what I'm
That's a
saying.
perfect
I think that's a great idea.
it is.
I like that for open.
What's that from?
Yes.
Go to
Call up
chocolate
and
warehouse.
Here's another idea.
M&Ms.
What about this? When you're marketing, and Martin, you and I were working through this just the other day, where you go through all the different websites, the Yahoo and the Trulia and all those websites, and you print out the cover page of the website and then their property on the website, and you spread all those out all over the table. All 30 of the different websites. By the way, your property has been available on over 30 different websites, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, for the last 93 days. And this is the first offer we've had, and you spread out all those out all over the table.
How do you put their? You'll have to show us how.
I'll have to show you.
Right. So you have web.
You go into each website.
Yes.
And you can
And
put
just
the
do a
picture on?
search. Go to yahoo.com and go houses,
Right.
search, Long Meadow, price range, and your listing pops up. And you show them, this is the Yahoo site. When people go on Yahoo, this Boston.com, this is what they see. Homes.com, this is what they see.
Where did we just learn that you're not supposed to, by the way, say MLS, because they don't know what that means. You're supposed
Right.
to say internet. So the hits on the internet, this
Yes.
is how many hits you got on the internet. I think that's
Absolutely.
better.
Here's another important fact, gang. I went to I'm going to speak more about this at another time, but we went to a branch executive meeting yesterday, and one of the things that I was reminded about is that many of you, and ask them, raise your hand, and cause I just want to get an idea. How many of you are sending, emailing listings to buyers through the MLS system? Raise your hand. Okay.
Who isn't?
Wow. Okay. What's that? Why?
Because you told us
Well, that's one reason. But if you are going to do that, you should be putting them. All those should be coming from your website. Yeah, that's what you're doing. Brand new, right?
I don't know how
You're
to
new to
do
the
that.
business.
I don't either. I don't know how to do
Right.
that.
You don't know
Well,
how
I'm
to
going
do
to
that.
show you how to do it. I don't care if I have to sit down with you individually, one by
I have
one,
to.
next to a computer. I want you to take every single person's email address and name out of MLS
Okay.
and put them into your web page that you're getting for no charge to you whatsoever. And instead of them getting all those leads, they're going to get that information with your picture and your name and
And
all
the
that
bio
stuff
and the whole
will
bit.
constantly stay on the left-hand side of the page. And when they reply back to you instead of going, you're sending them listings for all these other agents. You know what they're doing, gang?
Riding by.
They're driving by, they're seeing the sign, you're not getting presence of mind. The company invested in that for you,
Yeah.
and now I'm going to show you how to use it, okay?
Okay.
Because you're wasting your availability. Here's another thing. In most of our offices in Western Mass, we're selling too many listings compared to buyers' transactions. In other words, for every listing that sells, you should sell 1 or 2 buyers. And we're not doing it. We're selling like 60 to 70% of our sales are listings that are being sold. And our buying closing ratio is very small, which means one thing and one thing only. We as a region are not capturing enough buyers from
yeah.
the listings that we have. Either we're doing a poor job on the phone or a poor job on the internet leads that are coming in, or we're sending out too much stuff MLS instead of through our own personal web pages. You follow me,
I
gang?
hear you.
So
Yeah.
we're going to reverse the curse, right?
Yeah.
Work with me on this, and I'll show you how to make more money. Okay? In other words, the money's there, the opportunity's there, but we're just not taking advantage of it. Okay? Yes, Bill.
No,
All right, good. Don't forget it, though. Hold on. So what about copies of the print ads, right? What if you took all the print ads that we did, right? Since the day that it was listed. How many of you are saving every print ad on every listing from day one? No, you should, right? Shouldn't you? You get the paper, save it, so you can use that and say, look it, here's where your property was marketed and advertised. Now you could tell them the date and where it was, or you could show them the actual ad, which is better, right?
Show them.
Right. Gang, you see how by doing business differently, you're going to get different results. Can you see how this would work for you? What are the odds? You're increasing your odds dramatically by using this system. Now, number 2, choose your ground. Choose your ground. In your office, you have more what?
Control.
Control. Absolutely. In your office, you have more control. Don't ever say to a seller, come on in, I just sold your house. Don't ever say that. I'm going to give you a couple of rules to follow behind this too. A, if you go to a house with friends or relatives are there, what should you do?
Reschedule.
Leave. Leave. Here's what you'd say. Oh, geez, I didn't know you had company. I was coming over. Or let's say they bring people with them to your office, right? And they're bringing up. Oh, geez, I didn't know you were going to bring someone else with you too. Why don't we do this? Why don't we reschedule for another time? I've got a few errands that I need to do anyway. So when could we come back where just the 3 of us can get together? Because here's what will happen. If you don't do that, here's what will happen. What do you think the seller's ego will allow them to do if they have a friend or a relative with them and you're presenting the offer.
Reject it.
Reject it absolutely, positively, because their ego will get in the way and because of their front of their friends. I can't tell you how many people you ask them, hey, what'd you pay for that car? Oh, I got a sweet deal on this car. I got it for, blah, blah, blah. And then you go to the dealership to buy that car for the same price, and they're like, no, there's no way. There's like a $5,000 difference, and you know your neighbor lied to you. How many of you ever been on a listing appointment? A lot of you are shaking your heads, right? How many of you ever been on a listing appointment, and the seller says, well, my neighbor just sold their house for $220,000.
Yeah.
And you look at MLS, and it's sold for how much?
Right.
195, right? Blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Right? What is it that causes human beings to do that? Well, it's the same thing that will destroy you when you're presenting an offer and there are other people there. Do whatever you have to do. Get out of there and say, look, I can only come back. I prefer to only do this personally, just amongst you guys. There are personal things I want to discuss with you, and I just don't feel comfortable. You can certainly talk to them after the fact, but I'd rather speak to you alone about this. B, if you absolutely positively have to talk to them on the what, gang? On the phone, right? Get what?
Everyone.
Get everyone, or both people, or everyone. I like that better, Esther. I had in my notes both, but I like that better. Everyone. Everyone who's a decision maker. Let me clarify that. Not everyone who's not a decision maker.
Well, right.
Because we just talked about that a minute ago as well. And get them on the phone at the same time. And what should you do first before you get them on the phone to discuss the offer?
Email or fax.
Email or fax. That's correct. Email or fax it first. Step number 3. You ready for number 3? You still writing?
Yeah.
Number 3 is join forces with them. Join forces with them. Oh, gosh, I have to take a deep breath before I even talk about this. I can't tell you how many times, even when agents come to me and they talk to me, here are the words I hear that it's like running fingers down a chalkboard for me when I hear this word. My buyer. My buyer. Everyone say that.
My
buyer.
Yeah, don't ever say that again. Now that you've gotten it out of your system, don't ever use it again. But John, it is my buyer. I'm a buyer's agent. This is my buyer. No, it's not. Yeah, it might be your buyer in terms of a buyer agent. But whenever you use the terms my buyer, you instantly alienate the other party. And you're not what? Joining what?
Forces.
You're not joining forces, gang. Even if you're a buyer's agent. There's nothing illegal. There's nothing legal that you have to say that it's my buyer when you're working as a buyer's agent. Okay, gang? Lose that. Use words like what?
Hours.
Mr. and Mrs.
Ours.
Jones.
All right, yeah, you could use their name. I like that. And I want you to use terms like we
How about your buyer?
and us.
Your buyer.
Ooh,
Your
if you say that to
future
the
buyer.
seller,
Yeah.
your
eminent buyer.
What? That's good, right? Your eminent buyer, right?
And they'll say, what are you talking about? I don't understand that
What
word.
does that word eminent mean?
Right, they won't know.
Yeah.
Just say your buyer. Your buyer.
Yeah, the buyer for this home, right? But don't say my buyer. Please lose that. And you're going to hear this from other agents who didn't attend this seminar, and you're going to cringe because you know that any agent that is in the habit of saying my buyer is in the habit of not closing as many deals as they could. They don't have the right mindset. Change your mindset, and you'll change your results, gang. Okay? Next item,
Sounds
number
good
4. Number 4 is keep them hoping. Keep them hoping.
Who? The buyer or the seller?
Both.
Everybody. Keep
Both.
everybody.
And I'll explain that in a minute. I had a student one time in class write it down this way. I was leaning over like I was looking over, and here's how they spelled it. You ready? They spelled it Hopping. And I looked at it and I thought to myself, I was going to correct them, and I said, yeah, you know what? That works too. Keep them hopping is good also. That'd be great. So, here's what I want you to say to buyers, and I actually wrote down the dialogue for you, okay? Say this to the buyers. Don't start packing. Don't get excited. Anything can happen. We have 1,000 hungry agents out there. Someone else could be writing up that offer right now. I'll do my best and get back to you. Keep your what? Fingers crossed. You say that to a buyer, okay? So rather than role playing, let's all just read it together real quick. Ready? Go. Don't start packing. Don't get excited. Anything can happen. We have 1,000 hungry agents out there. Someone else could be writing up an offer right now. I'll do my best to get back to you. Keep your fingers crossed. What do you say to the seller? Well, you say this: don't start packing, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. I know we have an offer now. Don't get excited. Anything can happen. The buyers may want to renegotiate after the home inspection, or the home may not appraise. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Keep your fingers crossed. Ready, everyone? Don't start packing. Don't get excited. Anything can happen. The buyers may want to renegotiate after the home inspection, or the home may not appraise. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Keep your fingers crossed. You got it. Now, there are any number of things that you can add to that dialogue of how many things could actually happen to the transaction after you get an offer. I mean, just getting the offer and getting it accepted, I love like what Bill said. You know, you're going to Florida and you just crossed the Connecticut line, right? Was it Connecticut? Did I get the state right? Okay, good. Roberta, you had a comment?
Yeah, because you said don't tell anyone that you can show them. So there is a chart that goes like this, and it starts here with the market analysis, and then they're like 50 or 100 things, and then the closing. Well, we're right here. You can show them on the chart. It's like a game.
I love that.
We're right here, but there's 50 more things that have to happen.
That's great. A great visual. Awesome. Thank you
I've
very
got
much.
that.
Where did you get that?
It's from an old one
Yeah,
of
we
our.
have it in
Yeah, it's a
the
GMAC. We
Yeah.
have it. Yeah.
Yeah.
We can print it off online for you. We can print it out for you and everything. Yeah. It's the buying process or the selling process. And it
So you
runs
should
it
put
through.
that up there to bring that to him.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
Now,
What do
what
we
is that
call that?
called?
The
Game board visual.
the organizational, the selling process. All right.
And bringing the offer is way at the beginning of the process.
Right. Absolutely. Anything can happen. Because if you tell them, listen, gang, you're setting yourself up for them to hate you if it falls apart. Okay? You always want to downplay everything, because anything can happen. And guess what? If it doesn't, well, they're pleasantly surprised.
Exactly.
Right?
And they love you.
Yeah, and then they love you. Absolutely. You know, I used to get a lot of, when I was an agent, I got a lot of thank you notes. And that all stopped when I got into management, by the way, just so you know. But I got a lot of thank you notes. And from my sellers. And the number one thing that I attribute getting those thank you notes from was the fact that I would constantly, always prepare them for the worst. And I would under promise and over deliver constantly on everything, every communication I had with them. You know, if you're doing an open house, we might not get anyone to show up at all. I don't know. And then you say, oh, by the way, 3 people showed up. And if so, by the way, your house is going to sell as a result of an open. We got an offer. Well, it's a pleasant surprise. But you set and manage their expectations, gang, and you'll have a much better results in everything you do, how you're perceived. Gang, when the year I sold 90 closed transactions, 73% of those transactions came from personal referrals. People do not give you referrals unless they're excited about what you did for them. Not like, oh, you did an okay job, right? Wow. So that's a powerful thing to take home with you today. Now,
Okay.
number 5, get your blank, blank, blank.
Game face on.
I like that, get your game face on. That's a good one.
What
Yeah,
is it?
that applies.
Button gear.
But that wasn't what I had written down. What is that? Get your button gear. I like that one too. All these are good sayings. I like your creativity. This is good. Get your best offer first.
Oh no, let's start this and then we'll see. That's
Right.
what they say.
That's what
Well,
they
let's
say.
start here and then
I'm
we'll
gonna
see.
share with you a 4-step track on how to get your best offer first. By the way, let me ask you a question. Do you think more of your offers would get accepted if you're working with the buyer and you got your best offer first? Yes or no?
Yes.
Absolutely. Would you like me to show you how to do it? I'd love to show you how to do it. Here we go.
Okay.
Why do you want to get your best offer first? Well, I made some notes here. Why? Because the sellers can tell by the look in your eyes and the tone of your voice whether you've used all the skills that you could have used to get the buyer, to get the best price from the buyer. They can tell. And you're going to be face to face with them. And you want to be able to be sincere. And the best way to do it is get your best offer first. you kind of want to say something to the seller, something like this, and I wrote this down as well. I honestly believe I got the best offer I could out of this buyer, and I used every technique under the sun to get the price, to get this price from the buyer. When you say this, fewer sellers are going to impulsively blank the offer, counter the offer. Because they see a lower offer and they're going to immediately, but if you say those words, it makes a difference, right? Let's, rather than role playing, let's read it all together. I honestly believe I got the best offer I could out of this buyer, and I used every technique I could under the sun to get this price from the buyer. Okay, again? When a buyer wants to make an offer, step one of the four-step process is there's a track that you're going to follow. There's a four-step track, okay? Step number one is find out blank they want to offer less.
Why?
Why is correct. Find out why. What do we do, gang? Find out what?
Why?
Find out why they want to make a low offer. And how do you find out? Well, you ask this dialogue. Let's all read it together. You ready? Out of curiosity, what is it about the $410,000 that bothers you? That's the asking price, $410,000. Out of curiosity, what is it about the $410,000 that bothers you? And they're going to respond with one of three things, and I wrote that down for you as well. Either they don't think the property's worth it, or they want the property for less money, or it's in their nature or in their culture to barter. You follow
A lot
me?
of people are that way. They're just gonna.
They're just going to barter. That's just
Right.
the way they were brought up or
Like that.
raised or conditioned, or they either, it's just what they do. Okay, gang? That's part of it. It's part of their process. They would never buy anything without making an offer.
Even one girl said that to me. She drove me crazy, and finally I just said, "You've got to stop this." You know.
Yeah.
You don't realize what you're doing. Oh no, this is part of the game. I said, "It's not a game. You're going to turn them off." I mean, you know.
Yeah, right.
They don't understand it, and they really feel they're not getting something unless they go through that.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's true. So here's the dialogue that you say to them back. You say, if you knew it was worth more than $410,000, would you buy it for $410,000? Ready? Everyone with me. If you knew it was worth more than $410,000, would you buy it for $410,000? And sometimes they'll go, oh, well, wait a minute, I don't know about, this is part of the game, and here's what you have to say. Say the same thing again. If you knew it was worth more. Now listen, Betsy, focus on, I'm going to ask you again. If you knew it was worth more, would you pay the $410,000? If you knew for a fact it was worth more. Well, yeah, because they want to get a deal, right?
Right.
What is it about the $410,000 that bothers you? Well, I don't think it's worth that much. But if I could prove to you that it was worth more than that, would you pay the $410,000? Well, eventually they have to say yes, all right? They have to confess, yeah, I guess I would. Okay. Then you go to step two and you do a joint CMA. Now, what's the difference between a joint CMA and an updated CMA and a CMA?
They're doing it together and they're going to agree on it.
You got it. Ken nailed it perfectly. You're doing it together and you agree on it together. So you go in the computer system and you do a CMA together. Now this whole process could take you 2 hours, gang. But how many hours would you spend going out and showing them more properties, writing up more low offers, presenting them, running it back and forth, getting it delivered, getting the check signed? How many hours is it going to take if you don't get this done and you don't use this process?
I have a question.
Yes.
What if the seller is too high to begin with?
Use that market analysis when you're presenting the offer.
Right, right.
Right?
But what about, from the buyer's perspective, they're making an offer that's probably more in line with.
At this point, what you're doing by doing a market analysis with them, you're helping them to put together a reasonable offer.
Right.
This is getting a buyer who's making a ridiculous offer that's too low, that will get rejected, or that will insult the
To come
seller,
up to
and
where
getting
they
them
should
to
be.
where the offer can get accepted versus countered or rejected. So part of the process is to not get it rejected, and to get it accepted is to get your buyers to come up with their best offer first. And stop making these low offers. It's not helping them to buy the house, and it's not helping you to move forward. You have to have something to say, something to do to get them to change the way they feel about what they're doing, right? Step number 3 is you reduce it to the ridiculous. Here's the key, gang. Get their mind off the price and get their mind on the difference. Everyone say that together with me. Get their mind off the price, get their mind on the difference. You see, instead of talking about, the difference between, instead of talking about, well, let's pay the, God bless you, paying $430,000 for the property versus, paying $450,000 for the property. You're going to talk about the difference of $20,000. I mean, I just use an example of $2,000. Sometimes you're negotiating back and forth and you're $2,000 off. Now, the weak and pathetic agent, yes, I said it, would say, "Oh, I'll take 1,000 and you take 1,000," and no. Listen, here's the bottom line, gang. It's $2,000. You're $2,000 apart, right? Here's what you don't realize with an agent is that if you're going to try to be weak in doing that, first of all, you can't do it unless you have to come to me first and get authorization to do something crazy like that, and I'll immediately talk you out of it and coach you through the process of how to get the offer accepted. And here's what I would say to you. I would say, agent, listen, they're $2,000 apart. The seller has to want to sell the home more than you, the agent, want to sell the home. The buyer has to want to buy the home more than you, the agent, wants to sell the home. If you show that you need the commission more than the buyer wants to buy and more than the seller wants to sell, then you will fork over the cash. And if you do come to me and ask me that, I'll say, sure, as long as it's all out of your side, not mine. Okay? Right? But all I'm saying is that you don't even have to do that, because if you just say no, then the seller is going to lose a buyer. You might lose a commission, but you have other properties that you can sell. And you're thinking to me, John, no, I don't. Well, you have to pretend that you do, okay, in order to make this work. All right? It will work, because there are buyers that want to buy more than you need to sell a house. There are sellers that need to sell more than you need to sell a house. And when you realize that, you'll stop forking over commissions during the negotiation. Okay? Don't even think about it. Okay? And it won't happen.
I didn't think about it till you brought it up.
Yeah, we'll see. There you go. All right, in and out. Ready? Out and in, right? But I bring it up for the people that are constantly going around thinking, hey, if it doesn't work, I can always do this. Listen, if you give someone an option, they'll take it every time. What I'm asking you to do is eliminate that option from your mind. Make it go away, and you won't have a problem. Get them at $2,000, right? You know what you could do is you could say to them, all right, let's say if it's a $2,000 off, or you could say this to the buyer or the seller or both. Sometimes I found myself, if I couldn't present the offer directly to the seller, and I would say to the agent, I say to the agent, listen, you know what I told my buyer, and if you want, you can say this to your seller too. For $2,000 a month, that's $2,000. That's $16 a month. That's less than 50 cents a day. That's less than half of a Big Mac, man. You know what I'm saying? That's less than half of a Big Mac. You want a good close? Say, here, let me pay the first 2 days myself right now, Bill. Here you go. And give him $1. No.
Oh, I want to do for
No.
the
No. Right. But I say that as in jest. And if you have a good rapport with them and they have a sense of humor, you might be able to say something like this. Hey, you want me to pay for your first day in the house? For your first 2 days in the house, you want me to pay for it? And they say, no, I want you to pay for $2,000, right?
But that's on the 2,000 only.
Yeah, but that's the key, is you want to point out the difference. The difference. See, focus on the difference, because that's really the issue. The issue isn't the price. The issue is the difference between where they are and where they need to be in order to get into the house, and/or for the seller, it's where they are and where they need to be to get the property sold. In other words, if they don't get $2,000 more for their house, they're going to have a $2,000 more mortgage on the house that they're going to buy, right? And reduce it to the ridiculous. Bring it down to a smaller number. Now, step number 4 is build the value. Build the value. point out everything that they're going to get for less than a Big Mac. You get, and here's what you want to focus on. Focus on what the buyer is getting for their money. What are the things that they liked about this house? What are the things on the list that you had with them? What are those things on that list that they're getting? For less than half a Big Mac, you're getting the location you wanted. You're getting the cul-de-sac that you want. You have to bring these things up, gang. It's not obvious to them. All they're thinking about is the higher mortgage payment, the this, the that. Now they're all thinking about is numbers. You have to bring them back in to where they were before when they saw the house and they liked it.
I'm the seller's agent talking to the buyer's agent like this. Or,
Yeah, I mean, you could be any agent talking to the buyer like this. You could be the listing agent or the buyer's agent. And remind the buyer, this is you talking to the buyer now, you're getting the location you want, you're getting that third bedroom that you always wanted on the first floor, all for less than half of a Big Mac. You're getting that built-in pool that you wanted, right? All for less than the price of half a Big Mac. So now, what do you say to a seller? Well, for less than half of the price of a Big Mac, you have no more showings that you have to worry about. No more open houses you have to get ready for.
You can move to where you want to move to and be with who
No
you
more
want to be
mortgage
with.
You can move to where you want to move to and be with who you want to be with, right?
You don't have to worry if the rates are gonna go up.
You don't have to worry if rates are going to go up anymore, right? What else could happen? You guys are good. You guys are really good. I like this. Right?
No more stress of selling the house.
Yeah, no more stress. It's over. All this is over.
Be a
It's
done
done.
deal.
No
That's right.
taxes, no heat.
Then
no
right after you
water.
tell them
Right.
that, say,
Right.
we're just starting now.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
By the way,
Yes.
we're just getting started.
To the line.
So instead of, you got that $2,000 difference, instead of telling the owner, let's split it, and settling there, you try to get him to come down to where this other individual is and
I
let
try
the
to get
decision-
both. I try to get both of them to accept it, and one of them is going to accept it before the other. You know, like I'll go to the buyer and try to get the buyer to accept it. See, I'm not trying. See, too many times if you give people the option, oh, let's split it in the middle, they'll take it. Here's what I want to really stress today: stop trying to negotiate and work on getting it accepted more often, and you'll get more offers accepted.
Oh, I see.
The problem is we're constantly trying to go in there and get it negotiated when that's not your goal. Your goal is to get it accepted. And I also want you to feel and understand that it's okay and that you are working in the best interest of the buyer if you're working as a buyer's agent. And you are working in the best interest of the seller as a seller's agent by selling the house, getting the property sold. So, understand that, accept that, feel it. I know that it's different from the way you've been thinking, acting, and behaving and doing prior to this. But you have to change what it is that you've been doing in order to get different results. Okay? So develop this mindset and it'll work for you. So those are the key factors. That's the 4-step process that I share with you today, and how to get your best offer from the buyer. And I also shared with you some great steps in terms of some rules and techniques that you need to follow in order to get your offer accepted rather than not. You folks have been awesome. I learned a lot from you today, so I want to give you an applause. Thank you so much for being such a great group, and I want you to have an awesome weekend. And go out there and use some of these things, and send me a few testimonials. I've been getting some, and I like that. Send them to me over the email. Let me know. Remember, next week's session, I'm gonna wrap this up. So if you came today and you don't come next week, you're gonna miss out on, how to get it presented. I'm gonna share with you. When working with a buyer or seller, many agents are losing money by not getting the offer accepted right away. You will learn a tried and proven 7-step track that will make you strong at getting offers accepted. And that's next Friday, 10 a.m. sharp, May 23rd. We'll see you all then. Have a great day.
Bravo. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that one applause.
Is this your cup?
Oh, yes.
Better than nothing, right, John?
Can I ask you a question?
Sure, let me just hit the video.
Go ahead.